Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your talking points, 5 of them from Manchester United's loss to Brighton yesterday. It's not one I really want to do, but we've got a lot to talk about. Let's jump straight into it. Number 1, same old United. Is it the same old Manchester United? To be honest with you, I don't think it is. As disappointing as the result was, I think the performances in our first 2 games this season have been improved on last year. Lads, we were dog shit last year for pretty much every single game. And we still ended up, with a trophy at the end of the season. I think we're improved this year. I do. Again, as disappointing as the result is, I think we're talking about a real bad slice of luck, it has to be said. Obviously the goal for Xerxes touching it into the net, Garnacho's goal, you're either onside or you're offside. And I've seen a lot of people saying, common sense needs to prevail, and was he interfering with play really, considering the ball was already going in? If you're offside, you're offside, and if you're onside, you're onside, whether it's a millimetre or a mile. So he was offside and the goal shouldn't have stood. But not only does that is that kind of deflating to Manchester United, but it also gives Brighton a bit of a lift as well. Now, we're talking about the goals that they scored. It's individual errors, especially the first one, from players that have been around before Eric Ten Hag. And look, we're talking about Harry Maguire here. I praised him last week and I gave him man of the match. But you've got to be, critical when it's due, and it's schoolboy defending. That first goal, when the ball is crossed in initially, he should go and clear the first ball. It's on the 6-yard line, and he's got an opportunity to clear it with his left foot, and he doesn't. He steps away from it, and it allows the ball to go right across the 6-yard box. And then when the second ball comes in, he takes a step out away from the post and just allows an inside channel pass. It's schoolboy stuff. You've got to get in and close down that front post and not allow crosses to come, to go across your 6-yard box. So it's very disappointing. But on the positive things, I think we look dangerous in the transition. We know Eric Ten Hag wants to be a transition team, possession-based team. Now, we're still working on, keeping the ball a lot better and so on and so forth. But I think we do look very dangerous when we're going forward. And I think there's the foundations or the remnants of a good defensive structure there that I'm after seeing over the last few games. We conceded way too many shots last season, but this season it's drastically improved. And only for individual errors, I think as a collective, I think we're actually defending well as a team. We're keeping our shape very well, and we're becoming hard to break down when we do things right, And again, if you've got players in your team that are, not up to standards, that are going to give away individual errors, then that's when the whole system falls apart. So I do think there are positives there. As disappointing as the result was, there are some silver linings there. Number 2, the Mount effect. Now look, Mason Mount has had a full pre-season, and I was very complimentary of him in pre-season. And I'm going to be complimentary of him again here. I've seen a lot of stuff online about how poor Mason Mount has been in the last 2 games and we should sell Mason Mount and so on and so forth. I disagree, I have to say. Now, I respect everybody's opinion, of course I do. But I have to disagree. Now, look, he has been a little bit sloppy when in possession in the past few games. He missed the entirety of last season, so I think that's probably understandable. But I think what he does give us in abundance is when we are out of possession, his energy levels and his pressing in the final third is absolutely fantastic. He's been the best. We're used to seeing Bruno do it. That energy levels and pressing all the time, pressing the opposition back four. Mason Mount is doing it, and he's doing it really well. And it's no coincidence that in the last 2 games, he's been substituted off. As soon as he has come off the field, our energy levels go. And all of a sudden, we look like a completely different team. And I think that is a lot that's down an awful lot to the fact that Mason Mount, his energy levels and his work rate has been absolutely fantastic. Now, I think if he can add the creativity side of his game that we know he is good at, if he can get that back on form, I think he's going to go from one level to another. But the question remains, when we've got a full squad, does he start in the team? Bruno Fernandez plays in the 10. If we've got a striker playing up front, or we've got Joshua Xerxes when he's fully fit going to play in the false 9, that's automatically, you would think, going to drop Bruno back. And we'll probably find Mount out of the team. But as of now, I've been very impressed with him. And I'd like to know your comments below about Mount as well. Number 3, what's wrong with Rashford? Look, we've spoke about Marcus Rashford, and I was quite complimentary of him last week. I thought, while he was maybe missing chances that he probably should be scoring, what we have been seeing out of him up until yesterday was the work rate back in his game. He was working hard, he was tracking back, he was looking to, run at defenders, albeit he didn't have that maybe instinct or that danger in front of goal that we were used to seeing a couple of seasons ago. Against Brighton yesterday, he looked back to his old self, and not his good old self. His head was down, his shoulders were slumped, he looked like he was lacking a bit of confidence, his body language was off, and he didn't have a good game. I think it's fair to say. I've said this on multiple occasions. I think Marcus Rashford can be a very easy target. But when we're talking about performances here, and we do this on these videos, criticism will come if you don't play well. Now, there were other players who didn't play well yesterday, but I think Marcus Rashford was up there. You know what I mean? I honestly do. And I've said it on multiple occasions that there's nothing I want more than Marcus Rashford to be our best player, to be scoring goals. He's an academy player. He's from the area. It would just be absolutely fantastic. And it was fantastic a couple of seasons ago when he had that 30 game a season or 30 goal season. He looks a million miles away from it. A million miles away. He had 2 good games in terms of work rate and energy levels, and he had a decent pre-season. He looked sharp in pre-season, but he just looked back to his old ways yesterday, and it is a big concern. I don't know what it is. Is it confidence? Is it, not buying into what the manager wants him to do? Is it, not liking these teammates? I don't know what it is. I simply don't know. But it's gone on too long now for it just to be a blip. This is a huge season for Marcus Rashford. If he doesn't have a good season this year, there's going to be a lot of pressure for United to move him on, if at all possible. But I will reiterate, he will get the full support of me this season. I will critique his performances 100%, but I want him to do well, and I want him to be, successful at Manchester United rather than somewhere else. But he's got a big, big, big season ahead of him. Number 4, Ten Hag's decisions. A couple of decisions yesterday that just didn't make sense, to be quite honest with you. Now, a lot of people online talking about the starting 11 and why is Maguire playing? Why isn't De Ligt in? Why isn't Joshua Zirkzee in? So on and so forth. I can understand the starting 11 that Ten Hag put out. We've known, in the 2 and a bit years that Ten Hag has been here, that if you play well, you stay in the team. Now, Harry Maguire played well last week, so he stayed in the team. That doesn't mean that Harry Maguire is our best centre-back. We know he isn't. So I can understand that in some way. The big concern for me was the substitution of Bruno Fernandez. We were on top of Brighton at the time, and Bruno Fernandez was heavily involved in any of the attacking threats that we did. I mean, he had the assist for Garnacho for the goal that was ruled out. To take him off, this guy has got more goal creations in the Premier League than anybody else since he signed for Manchester United. And to take him off and bring on Scott McTominay just absolutely baffled me. And you could see Bruno coming off the pitch. He had a bit of a smirk on his face going, what are you taking me off for? Now, I'm not trying to back up Bruno here in any way, because I don't think he had the best of games. But if you're chasing a game, and not even chasing a game, but if you're on top of a team and you're starting to create chances, which United were at the time, you don't take off somebody like Bruno Fernandez when you're trying to get a goal. It just made absolutely no sense. So Ten Hag does have to shoulder some of the criticism over yesterday's defeat. I've been a big supporter of Ten Hag, and I will continue to do so. And I've heard other fan channels, the biggest Manchester United fan channel in the world, talking about, Ten Hag being sacked and so on and so forth. It's absolute nonsense. You know what I mean? It's absolute nonsense. And a lot of the online fan base has been talking about Eric Ten Hag needs to go. It's absolute bullshit, to be honest with you. He made a couple of mistakes yesterday, but he's still got my full backing. I go back to the very first point that we made in this video. I think there has been improvements on last season. But yeah, I mean, taking off Bruno Fernandez when you're trying to get a goal just didn't make sense. And number 5, no more excuses. We have to play our strongest starting 11. We just have to play our strongest starting 11 next week. We're going into a game against Liverpool. We cannot have any more of Harry Maguire playing centre-back with De Ligt on the bench. We cannot do it anymore. It just does not make sense anymore to do it. Whatever about the Joshua Zirkzee kind of dilemma, I understand that he's more likely to get you a goal through the middle than maybe a Bruno Fernandez, but you've got to weigh that up with the energy levels that we mentioned about Mason Mount and what he gives you in terms of his pressing in the final third. I probably, if we're talking about Mason Mount, he's probably not going to find himself in the team an awful lot if we got his full squad, because obviously Bruno's going to play in that 10. So there is a big call to whether Joshua Zirkzee comes into that team or not. If he's up to full fitness, he's obviously our striker, our forward, so he's more likely to get you goals, you would expect. No more excuses. We cannot go into the Liverpool game with any weak points in our team. And don't give yourself a weak point just by saying, he played well last week, I'm going to play him. If you've got somebody there that's available and that is better than what we've got on the pitch, you start him. And Ten Hag has to do that. He just has to do it. We cannot go into the Liverpool game with any excuse. Now, at the time of recording this, I'm not sure how Liverpool, they haven't played their game against Brentford yet. So we don't know what way they will be going into the game next week. But it's Liverpool. You play your strongest team. It's in Old Trafford. 3 points are vital. If we come away from the Liverpool game without getting anything out of it, all of a sudden you're 6 points behind after 3 games. It's simply not good enough. No more excuses. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below on all of the points we discussed, guys. If you've got any other points, please do include them in your comments below. And of course, I'll get back to as many of them as I can. Please do smash a like on the video as well. Hit subscribe if you are new to the channel. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next one.